Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, it has finally come. Round number 7 of the Grid Championship, brought to you by Mettlestate and RaceFace. My name is Stephen Koenig. Joining me in the box this evening is Janneman Price, and we also do have a special guest who usually is out on the circuit and also hiding in the wings. We have also got Hansie Myberg. So, Janneman, welcome to the evening. How are you doing?
Good evening, Stephen. No, I'm doing okay. I'm just having a look out on circuit. Things are starting to get interesting. We are on to round 6 of 8. So the championship is heating up, and things are going to get interesting tonight.
It's going to be absolutely phenomenal. I think it's going to be a very, very close one. And also in the commentary box, as I said, is our special guest, Hansie Myberg. Hansie, welcome to the commentary box. Not out on the track, but how are you doing this evening?
Good evening, Stephen and Janneman. I'm doing good, in yourselves?
We're not allowed to complain.
We're not allowed to complain. Yeah, no, it's nice to joining you guys here in the commentary box. I just want to see what the pro race is all about. Just see it from my other perspective.
Well, it's going to be a very, very exciting one as we're going to head down to qualifying and take a look at the cars out on the circuit at the moment as we see Daniel de Villiers going around. Now, a couple of things happened last night, which was rather interesting. The early pit stop seemed to have been the best play for quite a lot of the drivers. So going and putting into the box around about 10-20 minutes into it to get the first pit stop seems to be the best at the moment. But we'll have to find out as it moves forward of what's going to be the advantage for all the drivers. So I can't wait. I'm rather excited. But here at Snetterton for round number 7 is definitely a bit of a challenge. And going to the UK circuit, and, well, a circuit that's got lots of mixed feelings. Some people really enjoying it. Others prefer saying it feels like a go-kart track. I mean, Janneman, let's start with you. You've raced with the pros. You've been out there in the field. Snetterton and round number 7, drivers all fighting for those top spots. What do you think is going to be the main factors here?
Well, the last time I raced on Snetterton with RaceFace was actually, it was a year and a half ago or so. And at that stage, I really struggled with the track. I still struggle with the track, Stephen. Nothing has changed. But as you said, there's a lot of mixed feelings around. You know, some of the guys love it. Other guys hate it. Some of the guys say, the GT3 cars are a bit too quick for this track. It's not made for GT3 cars. Others says it's absolutely perfect as they go around. So I think it's going to be a race of mixed emotions, and we might even see some of the guys struggling, and other guys that normally struggle might come through to the front. You never know what's going to happen around a track like this.
Yeah, no, it's going to be a very, very interesting one. And I think it's going to have a lot of people guessing what's going to be the best to go move their way up to the front. I'm really, really looking forward to it. Let's take a look at the championship at hand, because there's a couple of things that have gone on for the driver championship. Cody Sherritt, who is leaving pit lane now, that is Christian Deploy. Cody Sherritt, he is out on circuit. He is leading the championship. Second place is his teammate Christian Deploy, who is currently out. Ryan Ottens in third place. And Hansie, maybe you can correct me on this, but Ryan Ottens is the GT3 Sprint Championship for Season 9. He's the champion at this point, maximizing the points.
Yes, no, if I'm correct, you are correct. He is leading the championship points on the sprint side of things now.
So at the moment, with 2 rounds to go, looks like he's going to be undefeated. He's holding the crown at the moment. It isn't over until it's over, that's for certain. He's currently lying 3rd place in the championship. Daniel Rowe is lying 4th place in the championship. Giovanni Pozzero is 5th place in the championship. Bego Krobler, Tariq Adam, Henry Mayer, Jonas Kraling, Kurt Glaskin is your top 10. All the drivers pushing incredibly hard, trying to get a little bit more pace out of these cars. And if we take a look at the teams, it's also a bit of an interesting run here, because we have got the Genesis Esports Red leading the championship. Hybrid Academy Blitz, they are in second place. Then we've got the Hybrid Academy Pistons. They are lying in third place in the championship. So a lot of guys have really tried to figure out what's going to be the best for them, and heading so close to the end of the championship, this is where it's valuable to go and score the points, and we're going to see drivers either work together, or they're going to take that more of a gamble as they make their way around the circuit of doing those late lunges, looking into getting past drivers and trying to stretch it out. Janneman, your thoughts into this?
No, absolutely, Stephen. We've reached the point in the championship, and I've said it before, and I don't want to sound like a broken record, but you're racing now, and it's at this stage in the championship where you start making those calculations on what you need to do to beat your closest rival, your closest competitor. For the guys out in front, like Cody Sherritt and Deploy, they also doing those calculations to try and figure out what do they need to do to beat each other, even though they are teammates. I'm pretty sure both of them would like to take this championship at the end of the day. And you mentioned the risks. Yes, if you find yourself at a disadvantage and you need to take those risks in order to beat your closest competitor, sometimes it's just something that you need to do in order to get the results you want. And it might work in your favor, or it might work against you.
Oh, that's it. And we also got to give a big shout out to all our guests that are joining us this evening in the grandstands. We've got the Mettlestate grandstand. We've also got the RaceFace grandstands out there with guys putting on a big show. I know the RaceFace grandstand, they're going and talking about their YouTube. And if you guys are out at RaceFace.Pro out on YouTube, go and hit the subscribe, hit the bell notification icon. It's good to see the guys out there in the grandstands. And also Mettlestate having a big party. They out on twitch.tv/Mettlestate. They've also developing, they've got a YouTube channel as well. So go look up Mettlestate. But it's good to see the competition starting to heat up. Time starting to drop now. Cody Sherritt in first place, done a 146.08. Morgan McCall out there, he did a 46.5. Henry Mayer 46.2. Now, Hansi, you were racing with Henry Mayer early on. You're very familiar with him in terms of his driving style. The development from Henry Mayer being a Pro-Am driver into a pro driver, now starting to lead out into the pros, it must be quite a thing to see someone grow from strength to strength and move their way forward.
Yeah, no, really. I mean, he's improved quite a lot. I mean, he's climbed up the ranks, and as you can see, he's always hitting the top spot there. Podiums or the top 5 positions up there.
It's always a good thing. Now I'm going to lean on you guys a little bit and just taking a look at the grandstands. We got Kalen Mauer actually saying good luck all, which is good to see. Kalen Mauer going and putting in support for the guys, and Arthur Mayer as well. Larissa Hawk. So good to see everyone jumping in. But you two have raced in pros. You're still currently in the championship. Hansi, you've taken a break for this round. But what can we expect heading into this hour and 20 minutes race, especially around a circuit like this, where it's a lot of follow the leader, put pressure on the guys ahead of you to try and move forward? We're going to see some good tire wear on the cars. We found out after about 55 minutes the tires actually get down to about 40% tire life left in the cars. After 55 minutes of racing on one set of tires, there's 2 sets of tires for the weekend. What is the strategy plays that the drivers can be thinking of at the moment? So I'm gonna start off with Hansi Warburg, since he is our guest. Your thoughts into this?
Oh, look, it is a bumpy track, and as you said, it's a short track, a narrow track. So you're going to just have to rely on the guy in front of you either making a mistake, and you can take advantage of it. And then, as you said, I think the tire wear is quite important on this track, especially because you're slowing your car down, and then you're hard on the accelerator getting out that corner again. So the the rear tires are working quite hard on this track. So yeah, I think the guys, I don't know if they're going to pit early or maybe halfway. I'm not too sure what the guys' strategies are like, but yeah, it's a bumpy track, especially coming into TT1.
Same question goes out to you, Janneman, from a different perspective. You've been out there. You also know how to push the tires a little bit further than planned with all your endurance racing your experience. Give us your thoughts into this.
Well, Stephen, in a scenario like this, I'm pretty much going to split it halfway. And what I mean by halfway is taking into consideration how many laps you are doing in qualifying, and also taking into consideration how much strain you're putting in those tires on qualifying. So if you do 10 laps, or not, you won't be able to do 10 laps, but say if you do 5 laps in qualifying, you're going to add those 5 laps to the set of tires in the race and see how much time it takes. So that should take roughly about 7 to 8 minutes. So on your new set of tires, you'll have to do 8 minutes more than on your previous set of tires that you used in qualifying as well. So that would be my tire changing strategy. As for the rest, it's always a gamble stopping early for your first stop. A lot of guys like to do it. I like to do it as well on a track like this where you're running 1 minute 45, 1 to 1 minute 47 race pace. It's certainly an option to do it because it won't throw you that far back that you will fall into the clutches of the leaders before you need to make your second pit stop.
Well, this is going to be interesting. An hour and 20 minutes is no easy feat, especially on a circuit like this where there is no breathing. There's one straight that can give you a bit of breathing room, but the toe that you get pulled along does make it very, very interesting. We do have to go and point out, we do have Tim the cameraman out on the cameras. Good to see Tim the cameraman out there. And I know Janneman's been having a chat to Tim the cameraman. He's got some very true facts about Tim the cameraman. Can you give us a bit of an idea?
Well, Stephen, it's not true facts, but some say his internal organs are made of carbon fiber, and that he speaks French in German.
There we go. The more you know about Tim the cameraman. And, it's one day we're going to have...
All that we know is he's called Tim.
He's Tim the cameraman. We love him. Sometimes he does a bit of bird watching as well. But very, very interesting to see Cody Sherritt putting out a 1:45.9 as his quickest lap time. Christian Deploy not able to better it, actually coming into the pits, doing a bit of a practice in terms of pit lane entry because it is a tricky pit lane. Because you've got to keep as far right as possible to get in, and also if you're racing you need to keep far left to avoid the guys going in because they're going to slope quite a bit. Christian deployed second place, Ryan Otten's currently in third, Johannes Strailing in fourth, fifth, Giovanni Porzero along with Christian Fenter in sixth, Morgan McCall in seventh, Daniel De Villiers in eighth, ninth Henry Mayer, 10th Daniel Rowe at the moment, Darren Miller down in 11th place, Jason Abschmeyer in 12th, 13th is Mahayath Musa. He had a bit of a rough night, but was keeping pace with the top 5. So let's see if he'll be able to get it going once again. Jan van der Merwe in 14th, 15th is Justin Loiter, 16th Nicholas Manuel. Alan Patterson down to 17th position. It was a bit of a dark horse last night and actually was fighting for second at a point, so keep an eye on that Lamborghini. The Lambo seemed to be pretty settled, and along with the Porsches seemed to be a little bit more worrisome around the circuit. SESAs going and moving his way around, so let's see how it's all going to work out as the drivers make their way through. But Janneman, give us a bit of a thought process into this now that we're starting to see the end of qualifying. The guys are needing to get one step further. Your thoughts into this last little sprint to it?
Well, qualifying is officially over. It's only the guys on their last flying laps that will still be able to complete the laps, as we see Daniel Rowe really pushing around. He's trying to move up from that 11th place. Now, Daniel Rowe is somebody that we've seen struggling a little bit this season, Stephen. I don't think that Mercedes is quite working with him the way he should, as we see him take a lot of curve through there. This is a very difficult corner he's going through because you need to try and slow the car down in a straight line, and there's not a lot of straight line there, and then keep your momentum as you go through the last corner onto the pit straight. Behind him, we can see one of the Genesis Esports cars also making his way through, all of them trying to better their times, and Daniel Rowe actually moves it up to 6th position. So from 11th to 6th on that last lap, Stephen, that can really make it count for you if you can improve on your last lap like that.
Well, that's it, and does look like we move the session. So let's go to a bit of an ad break before we come back. All right, as we wait in the commentary box, the cars all lining up on the grid, getting themselves ready to go out. Janeman, your thoughts into this? It is going to be a close run for all the drivers. They're going to have to try and figure out what's going to be the most advantageous for them. Cody Sheraton first place, Christian Deploy second, Christian Venter third, Ryan Ottens fourth, Jonas Kraling in fifth, sixth Daniel Rowe, Giovanni Pozzero in 7th, 8th Morgan McCall, Daniel De Villiers in 9th, and 10th place going to Bego Krobler. This is going to be a bit of a charge down to the line for the field, and it's very curious, especially with turn 1 being such a difficult, how can I say it? It's a very difficult corner because you haven't got to have the heat in the brakes, you're not going to have the heat in the tires, and it's a very demanding corner.
Yeah, not just turn 1. I mean, if you start off difficult and then you make it more difficult with turn 2 being the hairpin, so they're going to be hard on the brakes and not have much heat in those brakes of theirs. So things might get interesting. You know, these drivers, they are more than capable of getting through these types of situations unscathed more often than not.
Oh, that's it. The two Genesis cars lining up: Cody Sherritt, Christian Ploy, Christian Venter, Ryan Ottens, Jonas Kraling, Daniel Rowe, Giovanni Pozzero, Morgan McCall, Daniel De Villiers, Bego Krobler, Henry Mayer, Darren Miller, Jan van der Merwe, Jason Absweimer, Mahath Musa, Justin Lotus in 16th place as we get ready to go. Lining up the grid now, trying to warm up their brakes as much as possible. We're going to go to Tim in the heli just to get a bit of an understanding of the field as they're going to be making their way through. This is going to be close. 2 mandatory pit stops, 1 hour and 20 minutes for round number 7 of the Grid Championship, brought to you by Mettlestate and RaceFace. Now getting themselves all lined up, ready to go, waiting for Jim to call green lights. Anytime, Jim. It's all on you, buddy. Maybe he's gone to Le Mans.
Waiting long tonight.
That's it, and waiting for the green lights. This is always a problem. 70 kilometers now, wait for all the cars to go. Everyone careening to go as quick as they can. Good start from the PWSR car. The two Genesis locking down the inside line. It does look like Jonas Kraling trying to make up a bit of run. Christian Venter going and getting a run, diving up on the inside into turn 1. Collection with Christian Deploy, who's actually gets stuck in the middle of the grid, and everyone having to take evasive maneuvers to try and maneuver their way past, but just a slight outbraking going and landing up with a problem. So Christian Venter now dealing with Jonas Kraling, chasing him down. Jonas is not going to make this easy. Ryan Otten's also trying to close down the gap. Daniel Rowe has moved up into 5th place. 6th is Bego Krobler, Daniel De Villiers, Giovanni Pozzero as well into 8th place, Darren Miller. So a couple of guys going and moving up with that incident, but it's now thrown the cat amongst the pigeons as Henry Mayer is now battling it out with Christian Deploy. You can be sure is going to start battling with those tires, and everyone is going to try and capitalize on it. As you can see, Jan van der Merwe trying to go a little bit later on the brakes and pull Mahath Musa through at the moment. But this is where it becomes rather tricky, because whatever life you thought you had in those tires now lands up with a world of hurt following suit. So, yeah, off to a bit of a chaotic start. I think a very enthusiastic dive down the inside didn't quite work out as planned.
Yeah, it's even one of those risks we were talking about earlier. And then at that occasion, it didn't really pay off. We spoke about turn 2 being, even more difficult than turn 1, and having a look on the side here, Christian Deploy does have some damage on the rear of that BMW, so we'll have to see how that influences his pace. Dropped back from second all the way down to 12th position. As you said, he's now behind his teammate Henry Meyer, and these two, if they are clever, needs to work together to move their way up the field. What do you think?
Well, this is where radio comms come in. You can see Henry Meyer hunting down Morgan McCall. Morgan actually going on the defensive, showing his hand a little bit, saying, listen, you can't come past you. Rather keep behind as they go after Darren Miller. And it's a good show of, just, whoa, calm down. Let's try and get the train going. As we see the Hybrid Academy cars filing their way in front. Daniel Rowe, Ryan Ottens, Bago Krobler, they trying to pull their own train along. It does look like Ryan Ottens has backed off, and Ryan Ottens getting past. Daniel Rowe actually giving Ryan Ottens the charge now and saying, listen, you go ahead and we'll play a little bit of defense here. Bago running out a little bit wide. That's allowed Daniel the Hitman de Villiers to dive up on the inside, hard onto the brakes, not able to make it go past just as yet, but is constantly hunting at this point. Giovanni Pozzero also doing whatever he can to try and close down that gap.
Yeah, I mean, at this stage, the guys are doing anything they can to move their way up the field. Lovely to see Bago and Daniel Rowe running together out on track. I wonder if they're going to do a little bit of racing as we've come to know them. But everybody's still bunched up very close together as they make their way through. There is Morgan McCall. He's still battling it out there. But it does look like... Meyer has lost a little bit of ground on this lap. Let's see if he can make it up. If Christian Deploy still behind him. Stephen, it doesn't look at this stage if Christian is trying to make his way past the teammate, as we see Morgan McCall doing the early pit stop. Also, Daniel Rowe in the pits.
Yeah, the early pit stop for Daniel Rowe and Morgan McCall. And we saw it last night. It worked out in favor of Grant Sebastian, who actually pioneered the early start and actually moved himself into 5th place in the 55-minute GT3 sprint race. So maybe taking a little bit of what happened last night for the sprint race into effect and see if they can leapfrog the grid a little bit. Daniel the Hitman de Villiers dealing with Giovanni Pozzero at the moment, going on the defense, trying to lock down that inside line. It does look like the Ferrari's a little bit more planted. Darren Miller's got a problem, as it does look like Henry Mayo gets up on the inside. Christian comes by, and whoa, does Henry Mayo have a slowdown there? Because he was incredibly slow out of the corner and lost out the 2 positions.
Do you get slowdowns in ACC? I don't think you do. Was it a case of him letting Christian by to get Miller to get Meyer between the two of them?
It's quite possible to just try and do a little bit of a feedback.
Or did they try and do a switch and it didn't quite work out the way they wanted to?
It's very, very possible, because it just looked like he got a bit of an awful drive there, but now has got Mahath Musa all over the back of him trying to pressurize. This is a battle for the top 10 at the moment. Early on in the race, though, it is turning into a bit of a challenge for all the drivers as they maneuver their way around. Stuff is starting to open up, though. The guys are starting to feel a little bit more spacing. But Hansi, I mean, an early start now. What is your thoughts onto this?
Well, look, it was a good start. I mean, I only saw 2 cars going off in the back. Other than that, it was a pretty good start. Just didn't see any major issues there.
It was I've got to say, one of the cleanest starts. So I'm not quite sure of what is going to be the plan here, but I know the stewards are going to be looking at the incident between Christian Venter and Christian Deploy, because that was a little bit too close for comfort.
Well, yeah, it's one of those lap 1 incidents, and I don't want to predict anything, but honestly, we know the stewards tend to be a bit more harsh on the lap 1 incidents.
Yeah, look, they are a little bit more harsh on the lap 1 incidents. But yeah, I mean, let's see what it's going to get down to. The drivers just need to go and report it, and then the stewards obviously will look into it.
Yeah, absolutely. If there's no reporting, then there's no further investigation required.
And if there's a penalty, the drivers can also go and appeal it and see, the outcome of it.
So there we go, getting a little bit of background of what happens here at RaceFace, which is always glad to see in terms of the what happens in these sort of scenarios. Jonas Freyling keeping ahead of Ryan Ottens. Ryan Ottens really putting the pressure down onto the back of him. Now, guys, I'm going to ask a very simple question here. We're starting to get into a rhythm with all the drivers. Daniel, the Hitman de Villiers, is actually boxing very early again. A couple of guys have opted to go into the box. Daniel Rowe, Mahith Musa, Nicholas Manuel, Morgan McCall, Cameron de Bastos, Justin Lotus, Jude Neville has also gone into the box. Jason Abschmeier, Alan Patterson, Tinian Kuber, SES days. So all trying to get that first pit stop out the way and then can focus on stretching it out. Doesn't look like tires have been involved other than Tinian Kuber he was stopped for 25 seconds. SES days was 42.7, so there's a possible tire change there. But with the drivers at the moment starting to get that rhythm, would you start to play more into a catch-up? Would you start trying to just focus on the car ahead of you? Would you go onto the attack more? What would be the scenarios as you guys as pro drivers, because you both in the championship, you both raced with these guys, what would be the sort of mentality at the moment, seeing how the race has gone through? Yanaman, let's start with you on this one to give us a little bit of your thoughts.
Well, Stephen, it will all depend on what the car in front of you is doing. And what I mean by that is the car playing to your advantage? What I mean by that is, can you actually use it to your advantage to quicken your lap times? Or is it being a disadvantage? Is it holding you up? Now, we know Snetterton can be a difficult track to overtake on. So if it is to your disadvantage this early in the race, then you start thinking about, maybe I should pit and try and get into some cleaner air where I can run better lap times to make myself up the field, past the car in front of me by strategy, not just necessarily by a pass on track.
See, these are all the things that we have to consider. And just getting report back from the pit box that SES Days actually suffered a bit of damage, as we see Jonas Freyling getting pressurized from Ryan Ottens right behind him. The Hybrid Academy really going after Jonas Freyling at this moment, trying to give him a little bit of a hustle at this point. But SE taking on a severe amount of damage, and that is why he landed up in the box for a very, very long time. This is another factor that comes into play that can really turn things on their head, that the drivers have got to be aware of. And now that you've been stopped for that considerable amount of time, you've also got to try and get your head back into the race and say, all right, well, what do I need to do to move forward?
Absolutely. It's something like that it's something that can throw your whole strategy out. Picking up damage, picking up a drive-through penalty, stop-go penalties, all of those kind of things. I can talk from experience. It throws your whole strategy out, and you need to reevaluate your whole situation. You need to reevaluate your goals. That top 10 finish you were aiming for, even top 20 finish you were aiming for, might no longer be on the cards, or it might be a lot harder to reach. So, just take a moment to breathe, just recompose yourself and get back in the game and reevaluate where you can possibly finish in the race.
These are all key points to talk about. And we actually spoke to Loic last night, and he said the Porsche around the circuit is rather difficult. Mainly the second last corner right here is where it gets a little bit offsides. And we've seen the Ferraris and everyone, it's the last corner, but we've seen everyone, they come in, it's a change of camber, it's a change of the movement of weight, and you're actually braking while turning, so it's very easy to over-rotate the car, which we saw a couple of guys doing. And it doesn't matter if you're in a Lamborghini, a Porsche, or a Ferrari. It seems to be exacerbated if you're in a mid-engine car versus a front engine, but it is one to keep an eye out for the drivers.
That's exactly what I wanted to say to you. You know, it was a nightmare in a front engine car. I don't want to know what it's in a mid-engine car, as we see Ryan Ottens, and they are really starting to put the pressure on there, starting to work together to get past Kralin. Kralin just keeping out in front at this stage, but Ryan Ottens got Bego Grobler right behind him. And he's really starting to feel it, Kralin, at this stage. We saw him running just a little bit wide a couple of corners ago, Stephen. So does tend to look like he is a bit mirror watching there. He's very aware of that Ferrari behind him.
Oh, that's it. And he knows that the two teammates are trailing behind him. And this is where a little bit of an advantage comes in, especially this late into the championship. You start to get to know the cars around you and start seeing the teams that's working together. And Hansi, you're part of quite a big team Try Hard. You guys are used to running in formations. In this type of strategy where we see Johannes Kralin watching these mirrors, your thoughts on what sort of what sort of strategy, what would you be talking to your teammates about in trying to get a position?
Well, look, I've been watching this battle closely now, and I see Johannes Kralin. I think it's in that third, the hairpin that they just went through. Now he runs pretty wide through there, and then Otten's closing up on him on that corner every single lap. So it's quite a close battle going on there. And I see then Bego Grobler's also just basically behind him.
So when you've got teammates like this running in formation, because this is what it looks like, Bego is allowing Ottens to keep the pressure onto the back of Johannes Kralin. They know they're going for third place. They can see Christian Venter just ahead of him in second place. As a team, what would sort of be the discussions going on to try and ensure both cars move forward optimally?
Look, they're on same team radio, obviously, and the Discord. So they'll obviously be chatting to each other, and I think Bego will give Ottens space to have a fair fight against Kralin in front of him, not pressurizing Ottens too much, so you can focus on the guy ahead of you.
So just more of that constant communication of, I'm going to give you a bit of room. Similar to like what we had with Formula 1, where Fernando Alonso said that he will not pass Stroll. Let the guy go racing, let him go and move up a bit more forward. Would there also be discussions of what the tyres are doing, how much it's heating up? Because we've got quite a warm circuit, 33 degrees, which means that tyre degradation is going to start coming into play a little bit later into the race. Your brakes are starting to get something that we don't actually get to chat about is brake fade, where that pedal starts getting a little bit longer, that travel starts getting a little bit longer, and that's when the brakes and the brake fluid start to get so hot that they working poorly. Ooh. Oh, one of the Evolved Racing's actually turned around, and that's Jason Abschmeyer, who's parked on the exit, a little bit of a frightening place.
He's parked, he's not moving.
Nope, he is firmly stopped, actually.
Yep.
There we go. Now starting to go, but not quite what you want to see on the exit of the corner. But seeing that Johannes Kralin is starting to lose that little bit of track, do you think the Hybrid Academy team's going to be looking out behind them? Because they've got Christian Deploy, who has been slowly itching forward. The team's starting to help him go through. He's pulling Giovanni Pozzero and Henry Mayer through. They're lying 6th, 7th, 8th. And knowing how close championship as a team, do you think there's going to be a reconsideration of, okay, well, we need to either stop playing around and get past, or are we going to go on the defense here and try and get past him? So we'll try and stop a pass. Do you think this is the fact that's starting to come in, and it's going to give Johannes Kralin and Christian Venter a shot at it? So that question goes out to Janneman.
Well, most definitely, Stephen. We've seen Bego Grobler dropping back a little bit. He's dropped back about 1.8 seconds behind Ryan Ottens. As you said, Christian Deploy is gaining. He is now 1.8 seconds behind Bego Grobler, so that gap is evenly split up. I think it will be a discussion in that team radio to Ryan Ottens and say to him, listen, you need to get past Kralin in front of you, because Christian Deploy is coming up very quickly behind him. And be sure that Bego will put up the fight with Christian. So Christian, I think, is going to meet a brick wall when it comes to Bego Grobler, meaning I don't think Bego is going to let him pass very easily.
So this is what's going to help for Christian Venter lying in second place and Johannes Kreiling, who
Absolutely, yes.
they're a little bit ahead. They've got one car to battle. They're also fighting their own thing. I'm sure Christian Venter, last thing you wanted to see is Jason Abschmeyer parked and dropping way down the order as well. That's not too confidence boosting to go and see your teammate further down. A little bit further down, we've got 15th and 16th. We've got Justin Lotus going after Jan van der Merwe. We've got to talk about, there's a bit more different teams there around lurking, and just seeing that Jan van der Merwe has actually got quite a nice thing on the back of his car. It says brake. That was specially put on for the circuit. So ZRC saying, listen, we're going to put this on the car, especially for the circuit, knowing the history that can happen with it. So big brake sign on the back of it.
I wonder where he got that idea, because, Stephen, me and you tend to put stuff like that on the back of our cars. Or our 24-hour endurance car, we had a similar type of sticker on the back of it, just to let people know, listen, we are here, and don't miss us.
Now, we do exist. Johannes Kreiling trying to lock down that inside line. Ryan Otten's constantly pressurizing at this point, really trying to focus on getting onto the inside line, and Johannes Kreiling now defending that inside line. Moves back to the middle.
In the middle of the track.
Yeah, ensuring that Ryan Ottens gets a bit of a rough run, and does so, goes off circuit. That's going to allow Bago to close down the gap. And you can be sure the Genesis Esports team are going to be rubbing their hands together on that one, saying, okay, the mistakes are starting to happen, folks. Let's keep going. Johannes Kreiling at this point is sweating behind his visor. Christian Venter's starting to open up and get a little bit more of a move up through the field. So it's good to see a couple of guys starting to come through, but there is a distinctive split amongst the field at the moment. This is one of our closest battles, other than Henry Mayer and Giovanni, but they are running in formation at the moment. Morgan McCall's going after Daniel the Hitman de Villiers. They are literally 1.5 seconds. Nicholas Manuel's got Mahath Musa. Justin Lotus has got Jan van der Merwe. And Jude Neville going after Cameron de Bastos at the moment. It's interesting to see how there's smaller battles starting to form, but most of the field now opening up. Different strategies coming into play, though, that's going to change things out. As you see Bago Krobler catching right onto the back of Ryan Otten. So this is saying, listen, buddy, if you can't do it, let me go.
Get a move on.
Yeah.
I mean, Bago fully aware of the fact that he's got 3 Genesis cars behind him in the likes of Christian Deploy, Giovanni Porzio, and Henry Mayer. So might be a case of Bago now saying, listen, we need to get a move on. We need to get away from these Genesis cars.
I'm sure it's all going to be it. Darren Miller also in a bit of a prime position. He's trying to move himself forward. Ryan Otten's actually pulling into the pits. That's going to allow Bago to take the charge. So a bit of a strategy move up there.
I just wanted to ask you, do you think that's a bit of strategy, trying the undercut to Kreiling maybe?
I think it is the bit of an undercut. As we see Daniel the Hitman de Villiers running out wide, Morgan McCall actually having to come off the power, really just slow it down and ensure that he doesn't go right up the back of
very
that
short
PWS.
stop. Very short stop there from Ryan Ottens.
So it was a quick in and out, short fuel, go for it. So not going to push it all too long, but we're now under that hour mark. We're at 59 minutes and 30 seconds. And this is roughly where I expect to see things, because generally the first pit stops happened around in the 55 minutes. They were about 20 minutes into the race, which is roughly around where the guys are pitting now. But we should also, if my calculations are working correctly, which I'm very bad at math, so
it's very dangerous.
Take it with a grain of salt. I'm that guy that goes, if I turn my head the other way, the fuel needle tends to lean one way. So it should be fine. But when it comes to the matter of fact of, I expect the last 20 minutes, we're going to see the guys start to get their last pit stops in. It does take roughly about 26 to 27 seconds per pit stop if you're going for a through and just in and out quick refuel and go. It's a difficult one. I don't think tires are going to be utilized. I think everyone's just onto their fresh set of tires and just try and run it out. Hansi, what is your thoughts onto this? Do you think that most of the drivers have opted to rather put their fresh set of tires on and stretch them as long as they can into this race, or do you think a couple of drivers have opted to put the smaller tires on and just get it, well, the older tires on, use it up, then go and switch to a fresh pair right towards the end?
Look, I also think it's depending on what you did on your qualification. I mean, it's like Janeman said, some guys will push it, a lot of laps on those on the first set of tires. And I think it's De Villiers, he actually pushed up until 8 laps on his qualification. So, it depends on how much you used up from your tires then. What is your plans for the race? So, yeah, I mean, I would, if you want to maybe gain some time, I would put a set of fresh tires on the start. Or if you didn't take too much life out of your tires, I'll just start on the quali set.
That's it. Morgan McCall getting ahead of Daniel the Hitman De Villiers under braking, managing to get it right. A couple of things that I'm starting to see here. Daniel Rowe has completed one of his pit stops. He's lying in 9th position at the moment, 11.4 seconds behind Darren Miller, who is in 8th, who's kind of in no man's land at the moment. He's trying to gain a little bit of pace. The team starting to run a bit more of the formation. Henry Mayer, Giovanni Pozzero, Christian Deploy all pulling themselves along. Bago Krobler, I think, is a bit left out to dry at this moment, having to try and catch after Jan Strailing, who's opened up the gap quite well to the rest. And also Christian Fenter in 2nd place, trying to close down the gap to Cody Sherritt, who is 12 seconds ahead. I mean, this is where things are starting to run into it. Now we're also starting to see a back marker come into play, and that is SESAs, who is a back marker. This is where life gets interesting for the entire field. Not if you're in 1st place or in the top 5 or the top 10. It's also the guys at the back of the field that are in their own races suddenly having the guys coming around. It's a very challenging thing, and both of you know, in terms of getting lapped, that there's a fine art.
Thanks.
Well, it's being matter of fact, unfortunately.
Oh, yeah, you're not speaking untrue. But it's the truth, yeah.
But it's a tango between all the drivers. You've got to work with each other. You've got to do the waltz. You've got to make sure not to stand on your fellow dancer's foot. Otherwise, you're both going to land up in trouble. It's a very intricate thing, especially on a short circuit like this. What is the thoughts onto this, Janeman? Your take onto the guys catching up to the back markers, and especially if you're getting into closer battles with Lictus Manuel, Mahath Musa, Daniel De Villiers, all going into one monstrous fight. I mean, even Loic Randebel's going after Guillaume Mouton. These are things you've got to consider, and I think your engineers are also going to be starting to consider the battles ahead.
Well, firstly, we need to remember we're talking about Snetterton. What I mean about that is Snetterton is not always the widest track. There are some parts of Snetterton that are really narrow, and it's going to be difficult to get past each other. And you were talking about that art, and it is an art for the faster car to get past the slower car without really losing too much lap time, and also just for the slower car to let the faster car through without losing too much lap time. But around Snetterton, around the narrow parts, that is extremely difficult to do. And things are going to get interesting, Stephen. And it's going to be, you were talking about dancing, it's going to be some interesting dance moves we're going to see around this track tonight regarding the quicker and the lap cars.
Well, Daniel Rowe getting past Giovanni Pozzero. Giovanni coming out of the pits. It was also a short stop, 7.1 seconds in the box. So he's actually dropping down behind Ryan Ottens, but ahead of Morgan McCall, who's trying to close down that gap. But it's the only way of describing it with racing. It is like dancing. It is you having to work and figure it out. Yes, you've got multiple dancing partners with you, but all running to the same tune, the same song. You've got to
sometimes it's a rave.
Well, that's it. Sometimes it's a rave party. Hansi, you know all too well about getting a bit too close and personal with some of the competitors, especially in more of the difficult corners as we've seen this season.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's like Hanneman said, this track, the width is, it's like the whole track is one width all the way. There's very, very little corners which you can actually give somebody way if you're a back marker. So I think the easiest on this track would be to slightly lift off on the back straight. I mean, it's if you're not battling somebody.
Yeah, and with this type of thing. Well, Hansi, I'm going to play a bit of a game with everyone out on the Mettlestate grandstands and out on RaceFace grandstands for the Grid Championship Season 3, round number 7. I'm going to play a little bit of Did You Know? And it's a simple Did You Know. Did you know that chai in Hindi means tea? So when you hear a person say, I'd like a chai tea, they're ordering tea. Bet you didn't know that one.
Nope.
Your random fact. While we're here at the UK, we can talk about tea.
Bet you none of the guys are having tea at the moment, Stephen.
No, very far from it. I would
some
think
tea and some scones.
Yeah, some tea and scones while you battle it out. I don't think the invitation is there and the Queen's wave is happening because the King's back on the throne and the guys are just really slugging it out. But at the moment, Cody Sherritt leading out in first place, Christian Venter in second, Janus Kraling in third, Bago Krobler in fourth, Christian Deploy up into fifth place, Henry Mayer, Darren Miller, Daniel Rowe, Ryan Ottens, Giovanni Pozzero. He's actually got Morgan McCall right onto the back of him in 11th place. Daniel De Villiers in 12th. Mahath Musa in 13th. 14th is Nicholas Manuel. Justin Lotus, Johan van der Merwe, Cameron De Bastos in 17th. 18th is Jude Neville. Quirmuton, he's down in 19th. 20th, Loic Randebal. Says it isn't his favourite circuit, so he's just keeping it in for the points. Alan Patterson, 21st. Tinian Kube, 22nd. Ramona Yonka in 23rd, 24th, SES. Jason Abschmeyer retiring the car for the race. Just opting that he's got a bit of mechanical failure, one would think, in that. First of everyone that's done their first pit stops is Daniel Rowe, who's trying to close down the gap. And it's interesting to see these little battles starting to reform, especially going this late into later into the race. As you see Mahath Musa trying to close down on Daniel De Villiers, he's pulling Morgan McCall, Nicholas Manuel behind him. Morgan McCall going after Giovanni Pozzero at this point, really mounting the pressure on. Bago Krobler battling it up for third place. He's going after Janus Kraling. So it just got a little bit more life back into the tyres. Christian Venter actually dropping a little back and getting into the clutches of Janus Kraling at the moment. So interesting little formations starting to come on, and I think that we're going to have a very interesting run right to the line. It's going to be lots of strategy. Taking a look, we do have Andre Serradio over into the Project Vapor pits. I can see him out there. He's going in, radioing in, keeping an eye on the stream, keeping an eye on all the information that's being put out, trying to figure out how they can move Mahath Musa, who's up in 13th position, a little bit higher considering the pace. So it's interesting to go and see the teams now starting to play a long game here and try and figure out what's going to be the optimum run for them. So far, though, 7 from 1st to 7th on still needing to do one pit. We hit that 49-minute mark. We said roughly about halfway, which is 45 minutes. So let's put the gamble on there. You know what? Let's have a bit of fun. Hansi, if you have to put some money on the table, when do you think that Cody Sherritt in first place, he is 15.7 seconds ahead. When do you think he's going to pit?
Okay, well, it is round about, I would say, if I'm going to take a wild guess, it's going to be around about like 40-minute mark.
All right.
That's what I would do. I don't know. He could just push a little bit further, but I would say about like 40-minute mark.
Okay, so gambling man Hansi going and rolling the dice there. Janneman, are you going to go all in as well, or are you going to fold?
I'm going to give a very strategic answer. He's going to pit when the lap times run out. What I mean by that is he's going to keep going, get in that zone, keep driving until he sees the lap times dropping off. At this stage, Stephen, he's got a 15.7 second lead. But behind him, second, third, fourth, fifth, by no means are they far apart. I mean, those cars are running very close together. we've got Christian Venter, Johan Greiling, Bego Grobler, Henry Meyer. I see Christian deployed dropped back to 8th. So Christian did make his first pit stop. So he's trying to pull a strategic move, maybe feeling that, he's gaining on the cars in front of him. It's better to get into the pits and try and pass them in the pit lane than getting held up and trying to pass them on track.
It's very interesting stuff here. So we got some interesting times coming in. Cody Sherritt did a 1:46.2 as the quickest lap time for the race. But Christian Venter, Johannes Greiling, Bego Grobler, if you take a look at their lap times, Christian Venter did a 1:47.852, Johannes Greiling 1:47.767, Bego Grobler 1:47.827. Then you got Henry Meyer closing down the gap. Last lap time 1:47.4. So he is quicker, as I see Christian Venter bailing into the pits, so he's getting himself sorted. That's going to allow the guys to come through. Interesting to see where he comes out to Darren Miller, though, because Darren Miller is ahead of Daniel Rowe. So let's see. Does look like Miller's going to get ahead of Christian Venter. And now the eyes come on is, will he be ahead of Daniel Rowe? It doesn't look like it. He looks like he's just going to exit out and get into the fight. So very, very interesting stuff there. The guys are all starting to put a bit of work. Henry Meyer going after Johannes Greiling. He is slightly quicker, but now the difficulty is trying to get past. And we know that Johannes Greiling is putting up a monster defense. He managed to hold back Bego Grobler for some time, and also Ryan Ottens until a point. So this is where it gets a bit interesting. But where I also want to talk about is the gains and losses. Bego Grobler up 8 positions. He's lying in second place. Cody Sherritt is maintaining where he started. Johannes Greiling up 2 positions. Henry Meyer up 7 positions. Darren Miller up 7 positions. Daniel Rowe maintaining where he started. Christian Venter down 4 positions. Christian Deploy down 6 positions. Ryan Ottens down 5 positions. Giovanni Pozzero down 3 positions. Morgan McCall down 3 positions. Daniel De Villiers down 3 positions. Maeth Musa up 2 positions. Jan van der Merwe in 14th down 1 position. Cameron de Bastos in 15th up 7 positions. Stuart Neville up 9 positions. Graham Mouton up 4 positions. Alan Patterson maintaining where he started. Loic Randable up 5 positions. Tini Nkube maintaining where he started. Nicholas Manuel down 4 positions. SES House down 3 positions. Justin Lotus down 7 positions. And Ramona Yonka rounding out the field down 1 position from where he started. So some interesting gains and losses at this point. No real significant losses, but there has been some significant gains in the race so far. Christian Deployed now starting to feel the pressure of Ryan Ottens, and this is where it's going to get interesting. As you can see, a couple of guys bailing out of the pits. That is Henry Meyer that's coming out of the pits at the moment, and it does look like we've got Christian Venter who's gone into the pits. So Ryan Ottens stuck in a bit of a sandwich at the moment, not really where he wants to be, where he's got Henry Meyer constantly pressurizing him, and Christian Deploy, who can quite easily back the train up by missing out a gear. This is a situation in terms of a very interesting thing when it comes to working with teams. And Hansi, I know that you've had this before with Team Tryhard. You guys have both felt this and also utilized the same method where you've managed to pincer maneuver guys into it or get pincered. What would be the strategy for Ryan Ottens at the moment, knowing he's caught behind the 2 teammates, knowing that they would be communicating?
Yeah, it's a tough one. Well, I'll just sit just basically race behind him until something happens. I don't know.
All right, and Janneman, you know this all too well. I mean, we've seen this with our type of racing where we managed to get a car caught in between the 2 of us. What would be the sort of discussions going on for them?
Well, Stephen, firstly, it's not going to be a very pleasant place for Ryan Ottens to be between the 2 Genesis cars. But second to that, I'm going to say Christian Deploy is going to need the help of Henry Meyer, because before Christian's pit stop, he was running in kind of clear air. He was gaining on the cars in front of him. But after his pit stop, he got out in a fight with Ryan Ottens, and that will lose or hurt his lap times, hurt his championship points position. So he's going to lean on the help maybe from Henry Mayer to try and put pressure on Ryan Ottens and to try and put a gap on him to try and get into that clear air to run those quicker lap times again. But at this stage, Ryan Otten's not holding back. Henry Mayer having a little look on the inside. I think that was more a contact.
Bit of DTM racing.
Bit of DTM racing there, but I wanted to say that move from Henry Mayer was maybe just a little bit more to show Ryan Ottens, listen, I am here, to get him mirror watching a little bit, and in order for that to get Christian deployed to pull away from them a little bit.
Yeah, that's always one to keep an eye out for. Battle also raging on Mahath Musa, Daniel De Villiers, they going at one another. Morgan McCall, Giovanni Pozzero, they are also one of the closest battles. So we've got two very close battles. Jude Neville going after Cameron De Bastos at this point and starting to close down that gap. But a lot of guys starting to run in a bit of clear air or caught behind, not really having any... this is going to be a very, very interesting run right to the end. I'm not sure how it's all going to work when we start getting towards the end for the guys. I know at this point, if you're sitting in the middle of nowhere, and I'm going to use Jan van der Merwe as a good example for this, because he is currently 14 seconds away from the car ahead of him. He is 5 seconds away from the car behind him. You can see there's a battle going on, but you're going to start racing your lap times, and that is where it's going to be a very interesting one. You've got to maintain a positive delta as much as possible. Now, when we talk about positive deltas, we talk about, think of the circuit split into different sections. We've got four sections on the circuit. We've got four sectors, okay? So split the track into 4 different pieces from corner to corner. Each piece, you've got to go and keep a fast lap time. So keeping your time in the green, you've got to try and figure out what's going to be beneficial to you in that regard. So you want to be at least 0.1 up on your lap time and hit a target lap time. If you've got a target lap time of a 147.7, you want to ensure that every lap you're running 147.7 and ensuring that your fuel usage is at what you set it out to be, such as about 4 liters or 3.5 liters or 6 liters, depending on what your practice is, to ensure that you have enough fuel. As we see Henry Mayer go off, Henry Mayer has gone off, and while we were talking about technicality, the action just happened in front of us and we caught just a snippet of it. So let's actually take a look and try and see what's gone on for Henry Mayer here. Under braking, trying to get it on the power. Ferrari looking okay, a little bit stable, was a bit slow out of the corner. Now into the chicane, a little bit of a hop skip tire
on the grass.
And that's all you need, just the one tire to decide it's going to go that little bit further. It's going to go that extra, and no joke, that extra 3 centimeters, and then it just goes and spins up underneath you, losing that grip. So you've got basically one tire, your right hand tire, going faster than your left hand tire, going and losing it. So with a differential,
all in the pits again.
Yeah, so Morgan diving into the pits and getting his second pit stop out the way. So this is going to be very interesting because his target is to get ahead of Christian Venter, who's further down. He's done 2 pit stops. So is Nicholas Manuel, Justin Lotus, Cameron De Bastos, Ramona Yonka, and Tini and Kube. They've all done all their pit stops, so they're going for a bit of an earlier start there. So very, very interesting to see how things work. But yeah, going back to a diff in terms of that's the big mechanical piece connecting the 2 rear tires, it will put the power down to the tire with least resistance. So if your tire's on the grass, that's got the least resistance. So it's going to aim more power out to that tire and cause it to rotate faster than the tire that's actually on the concrete, getting a lot of grip. So causes the whole car to spin around. For anyone that doesn't quite know, when we talk about the tires rotating.
Was that your second did you know tonight?
No, that's my mechanical did you know. That's
Okay.
that's a Martin Brundle. sort of move.
Before we go,
Oh, Jonas Kraling,
Kraling on the grass.
I've got a question with that one, because we've done it before. All of us have done it here. Hansi, Yalaman, we've all done it. Setting up your pit stop on the straight.
That's what I was thinking
as
well.
You take a look to the left of your screen, and unfortunately, you take your eyes off the road.
The track goes that way.
Do you think that's what happened? Hansi, your thoughts on that? Do you think that's what happened?
Well, yes or no, I'm not too sure in that case, but yeah, it could be, because it is quite difficult. I mean, you have to do your pit strats, and there's not much, as we know, there's not much space on this track to do proper, pit settings.
Christian now and getting a lot of pressure from Ryan Ottens, getting past the back marker there, but Ryan is not letting him go. Stephen, I'm saying again, I don't think this is the position Christian wanted to be in. He wanted to be in clear air. He did not plan getting out and fighting Ryan Ottens of all people. But just quickly on a different subject, on our YouTube chat, Andre Soradio, yes, you have been spotted. And then Vietia wants to know, so will the commentary team be singing for Mr. Raceface live? I'm gonna leave that one to Steven. Steven tends to be a good singer. He's sang on live air before, so Steven, there is yours.
We've got an interview room at the end of the race after we chat to the guys to have a special little section. I think for people to get involved, they're more than welcome.
you're not gonna get anybody, ne?
Oh no! Trust me. If guys want to take the gamble, listen, we're all gonna be relegated to.
I think you'll have to offer championship points for that one.
No, we all gonna get relegated to a different class. That's for certain. If you think you're gonna be racing in pro, not anymore. You're in pro-am, not anymore. You
get a special class.
Hansi will get an email, I think. But yes, there is a plan at the end, because we do know he's watching, and there's a special part of it. But we want to just also take note of the racing that's currently on track. Cody Sherritt still hasn't pitted, so Hansi, you're not a gambling man, buddy. Don't enter the lotto. You're going to be absolutely ruined on this one.
Does that mean I win?
Well, we'll see.
I gave the open-ended answer. If he sees his laptop times start dropping now, that being Cody Sherritt, and he pits, means I was right.
Well, another thing that we've also got to consider is second place Mahayath Musa has completed all his he's completed all his pit stops at this point. He's now moved himself into 12th, which is absolutely incredible stuff. I want to just point out, because they're in a prime position to start gaining a bit of time on the guys.
And not just that, looking at the gaps ahead of him, a lot of the cars aren't that far ahead.
No.
I mean, he can jump well into the top 10 when the other cars pit in front of him.
But this is what is becoming more and more fantastic, and this is especially coming to the later parts of the championship, and it's why I like seeing these different circuits, because let's be honest, not many drivers like Snetterton, and considering our final round is going to be on a track that's brand spanking new, that is Valencia, where guys haven't had the practice in, as we see Darren Miller pulling into the pits. That's going to allow Daniel Rowe to jump into second place. Jonas Kraling is into the pits. I'm really looking forward to how this is going to change everything up, where the strategies are coming into play, where the guys are taking it a little bit more seriously. We do know that there's engineers chatting to the drivers in the background saying, listen, okay, this is what we need to do and how we're going to move forward.
Look at the gap between Deploy and Ottens there. Ottens right on his rear bumper. Sorry, Steve, to interrupt you. But Ryan Ottens really putting the pressure on Christian Deploy. But Steve, you mentioned this is the follow a leader type of circuit. Ryan not making his way past. He can get close, but track just sometimes too narrow to make that pass stick. But it does look like that Ferrari has got the upper hand through the corners. He closes up on the BMW of Christian de Ploy, and then on the tight and twisty sections, but on the faster corners, the BMW again does seem to have a little bit of the upper hand.
That's it. Another battle to also keep an eye on is for the guys who have completed all the pit stops. Mahaith Musa and Christian Venter are going head over tails over one another because remember, they've completed all their stops. This is a sprint race for them. They've got 33 minutes of sprint racing. How much life have they got left in those tires? Because none of them can afford to pit at this point. Cody Sherritt, though, still needing to pit. He's opened a 46-second gap, so he would be able to move forward. He would be able to get in the pits and get out, but that's going to allow Daniel Rowe to close down, so he's going to be reacting to whatever Cody Sherritt is going to move. Christian de Ploy has got Ryan Ottens, and he can't really react because he's watching the mirrors a bit in this point. But it's also, we go back to Mahaith Musa and Christian
Looks like
Venter.
de Ploy puts it there.
Okay, well, take the fun out of that. And it also looks like Giovanni pulling into the pits. Giovanni, this would be his second pit stop, so he's getting it done and dusted, and they will be getting out. But where do they come out? Because the people to keep an eye out is Mohamed Musa and Christian Venter. They've completed all their pit stops. These are the guys you need to get ahead of and that have pitted earlier on in the race. They might be able to do it. At this point, still stationary. Giovanni's still stationary. Christian still stationary. Darren Miller trying to make his way through.
I've got a question for you, Stephen.
With pleasure.
Do you think Christian and Giovanni are doing the same pit stop in order to get out at roughly the same time in order to run together on track again?
I think it's trying to keep it all together. It's trying to, you know, you can pull each other along. If you think about it, down the long back straight, you can utilize the toe of one another. You've got roughly about half a kilometer to about 800 meters of straight that you can pull each other along on. And that really does make a monster of effect. And if you can keep doing that switch the whole time, you will be able to move yourself forward. But Christian Venter and Mahaith Musa have gotten ahead of Christian de Ploy. And it does look like Morgan McCall managing to get round. But Giovanni down into 14th place. So he's really had a rough time there. Hansi, you were going to say something.
I was just checking. Cody Sherritt has gone into the pits now, so he's doing his pit now.
He's in and out, and that's going to be his first pit stop done and dusted. That's allowed Daniel Rowe to go and do it. And a lot of guys saying that this pit lane is very difficult because of the nature of it. You come around the last corner, you've got to really dive in. It's a short spacing to get into the block and get onto your pit limiter and slow yourself down to 50 kilometers an hour. And that's going to come at it. So Cody Sherritt now trying to keep ahead of Daniel de Villiers. But it's interesting. Ryan Ottens, Daniel Rowe have now taken that role of leading the charge. Bego Krobler going after Johannes Kraling, and Johannes trying to go around the inside. Oh, Bego making it stick.
That was well done.
Yeah, Kraling
still
just
side by side. Who's going to break the latest?
Kraling getting given the hard line onto the marbles. Bego really just going and eating him out.
That's true Bego Krobler fashion there. He did not hang back. He made his intentions very clear what he wanted to do there. I think, Stephen, maybe a little bit of irritation creeping in there, knowing that, I need to get past. Contact!
Johannes Kraling, Bego Krobler. It does look like Kraling actually
waited
down
for him.
But that has allowed Jan van der Merwe to close down on them, saying, well, this is prime opportunity for me. So absolutely to see out there. But taking a look back to our grandstands in the last 29 minutes of the race, we've got the Mettlestate grandstands absolutely going wild. So if you're out taking a look at Mettlestate, head over to twitch.tv/Mettlestate or go to the YouTube Mettlestate on YouTube for all that action. And if you're out here on RaceFace, make sure that you go to RaceFace.Pro on YouTube, hit the subscribe button along with the bell notification icon. Love to see you there. A couple of guys jumping in. We've got Amtech going and saying how's it. We've got Andre Serradio giving us updates. Vietia also going and giving us a bit of updates. Mark Cabasa going and putting in a bit of support. this is what I love to see, is guys giving a bit of an interesting take to things. Daniel Rowe into the pits. That's going to allow Daniel de Villiers to get by. Bego is trying to close down the gap. He's got Johannes Freiling, Johan van der Merwe losing out a bit of time as well. Christian Deploy getting ahead of Mahayath Musa though, and that is going to be a swap for the race. Daniel Rowe though has become first of everyone that's done all their pit stops. He's got Daniel de Villiers, Cody Sherritt and Ryan Ottens ahead of him to go and deal with at this point. But do you think Daniel Rowe has done enough to close down the gap and take away the advantage in the last 28 minutes? There's 27 minutes left of the pit stop window. Do you think he has done enough to ensure that he can take that first place spot?
I don't know, Stephen. I think it's still a bit too close to call. I mean, Daniel Rowe, looking at this, actually, he is about, if I need to do quick maths, 29 seconds behind Cody Sherritt. I don't know. Cody still needs to do one stop. Daniel completed all these stops. I mean, it's going to be a quick splash and dash for Cody Sherritt, most probably. I think it might be close, but I don't think Daniel at this stage has done enough unless he can put in some really good lap times. Cody Sherritt had a slowish last lap, but I think that was still his pit lap. Nope, it updated. He did a 1:46.6. Daniel Rowe, he had a slow last lap of his pit stop. So we'll have to have a look at how those lap times are comparing. But I think Daniel will have to get the hammer down and start putting in the quicker lap times as we have a look now on track. Ryan Ottens.
Now this is the battle for the lead. Oh, that is a bit of contact, and I actually want to take a look. And Hansi, this is where I'm going to utilize you a little bit as well. As we go to the helicam, this is the battle, what was the battle for first place. Ryan Ottens, Cody Sherritt. It does look like Ryan Ottens outbrakes himself, loses the drive. That allows Cody Sherritt to get up on the inside, side by side. And Ryan Ottens trying to maneuver his way closer to the grass and squeeze Cody Sherritt off, and does so. Cody Sherritt going and spinning off into the weeds, maintaining second place, but losing out a lot of time there. I don't know. I'm looking at that from a perspective of, yes, you're putting the squeeze on a fellow driver, but it gets to a point where you've actually got to give him a little bit of breathing room. It's a difficult one to really know where the boundaries are, but you've got to, as per the rules, give at least a car's width for your competitor to survive, going and giving him a little bit of a run. See,
Randall stop go.
Yeah, Randall's got a stop go penalty. That means that he's went and sped through the pits, or yeah, that would be speeding through the pits. Your guys' take onto that, Hansi, your take on that encroaching there.
Oh, look, I don't want to play steward here on a live race, but looking at it at that view, it is a tight track. I mean, yeah, I think from our perspective, it looked like Ryan did push him slightly and did not leave enough space. So yeah, it is a difficult call. I mean, for sure. I mean, you should have left him slightly a little bit more space.
But this is where it comes down to. It's up to stewards to do that, whereas commentators can only give some sort of perspective of what we saw. But yeah, that's the thing. You've got to give enough survival space for your competitors, and especially into tight circuits like this. And Yanaman, I know that we've had it before where the guys, you're trying to find the boundaries of where your competitors are. Your thoughts on to when do you know from in-car your view of there's enough space for your competitor? Is there, what can you utilize at that point? You've got your radar system that tells you how close it is to your car, but it is a difficult thing to really understand how much space your competitors got left.
Yeah, it actually depends sometimes also on what kind of setup you're running. A lot of the guys are running single screens. Some might be running triples. Um, but sometimes it's difficult to judge on how much space is left on the track. Now, you did mention that the rules are pretty clear. You must always leave a cars with. That is pretty standard rules in all or most forms of motorsport. And that will be the point argued. Now, we saw it live. I can't really judge what happened there. The stewards will go into further details, should a complaint or be laid. They will look at it from all angles. They will look at the rules regarding A pillar, B pillar, C pillar contact, because that is also something that will influence a decision where the contact exactly was made. Was it made B pillar, C pillar? Definitely wasn't A pillar contact. But I think the point will be argued, was there enough space? And as that happened, strangely and funnily enough, I heard Fernando Alonso ringing in my ears saying, "You must always leave the space."
Now it's there's always that limit. And taking a look, Ryan Otson still needs to pit, Cody Sherritt still needs to pit, Bago Corbin needs to pit, Darren Miller needs to pit, Nicholas Manuel still needs to pit. We now got 21 minutes and 30 seconds left of the chase, of the pit window, and that's going to change it. Taking a look though, Loic Randabal unfortunately having to retire the car, and my heart goes out to Loic, because it just seems like the British circuits did not play nicely with the Porsche, and he explained quite into detail that this circuit is a very demanding circuit on the drivers, on the cars. You've got a very specific setup you have to work with. You've got a very fine line to move around, and I mean, this is where we've got to be aware of the situation of how is it going to move, what's going to be the advantages in terms of your setups. But we're going to be moving on to round number 7 after this, and that's where things open up a little bit more, because we go away from these tighter circuits like Snetterton. But I've got to say, seeing Alton Park, seeing Snetterton, it's one of these tracks are, in my opinion, a great palate cleanser from the usual that we've all come to know. Everyone knows Kyalami in every corner, that what gear you have to be in, what speed. But throwing in an odd one does really turn things on its head. As you see, that's Van der Merwe getting twisted around and deciding to collect the wall. And let's actually take a look and see what happened with Van der Merwe.
Well, I'll just mention something after we have a look at this. I suspect might have been a wheel on the grass again, or was it just...
There
we go.
There's the wheel.
And there's the snap.
Oh, it's so...
And he braked.
That's light damage on the car. Something broken. But, I mean, these are the different factors that come into play. And with a track like Snetterton, as we see Darren Miller dealing with Christian Ploy as they're going after Christian Venter just ahead of him, the guys are really starting to push those boundaries a little bit more. They're starting to travel a little bit over the curbs, and the cars are bouncing themselves back. And this is where we're starting to see, like, the Porsches and Ferraris don't have too much of an advantage on this circuit. They tend to battle with that snap oversteer that can catch you out at a moment's notice, and once it goes, you're a passenger at that point. I mean, Hansi, Janneman, you both had this during the season where you just became a passenger in your own car. At that point, you're just holding onto the steering and hoping that the wall doesn't come up too fast. Hansi, your thoughts onto that situation that we just saw?
Yeah, no, I mean, that snap oversteer comes so quickly. If your rear wheel goes onto that grass, it's tickets. I mean, if you hit the grass, you can do whatever you want, turn whichever way you want. You just have to hold on to the steering wheel and hope you don't hit the wall too hard to get too much damage.
And Janneman, at this point, we're seeing a great battle. Darren Miller keeping ahead of Christian Deploy. Christian Venter starting to open up the gap a little bit more. Mahayath Musa dealing with Johannes Krailing at the moment. Daniel Rowe up into 4th place. He's completed all the pit stops. 3rd place, Bego Krobler, Cody Sherritt, Ryan Ottens going and running a great run at this point. But as we see, Jonas Railing going off circuit, Giovanni managing to get by, Mahath Musa getting a terrible fall down. What on earth happened to Mahath Musa? He actually lost out 2 positions there. Let's see if we can go onto our helicam and take a look at this, because it does look like Railing in the Lamborghini behind him trying to make up. Railing dives in on the inside. Musa tries to open up a bit of space, contact onto those rear wheels, twists around. Giovanni says thank you very much. Nicholas Manuel gets away unscathed just, and he's got Henry Mayo onto the back of him, but Mahath Musa unfortunately getting a slight contact onto the rear. Just Railing coming in and not able to slow that Lamborghini down fast enough to be able to avoid the contact. But Musa trying to give that little bit of spacing, but it just unfortunately is never enough, especially with a blind right-hander. It does make life rather difficult. Miller losing out of position to Christian Deploy. Now Christian Fenter, who is next on the chopping block for Christian Deploy. And this is where discussions are starting to come in. Miller still needing to do 1 pit stop. Nicholas Manuel still needing to do a pit stop as per the timing board that we've got here. Yeah, he's still needing to do 1 pit stop. But on my board it says that he's done 2, so I'm a little bit confused by that one. Ryan Ottens out in 1st place, Cody Sherritt in 2nd, Bego Krobler in 3rd, all still needing to do a pit stop. We're getting into those closing stages now, and this is where it's starting to get more and more frightening for the drivers as they're trying to close down that gap. With 16 minutes left of the pit window, 17 minutes overall left for the racing. Championship points, guys. This is what's running through the guys at the moment of what they're going to have to do. Where are they going to be able to make up time? What are they going to do in this point? It's something I'm wondering what's going through the heads. Ryan Ottens has now got a Cody Sherritt problem. Cody right back onto him, especially after that contact, lost out a bit of time. Bego Krobler trying to make his way past, actually running over the curves. Audi seems a little bit more stable. Last season the Audi was pretty much like hanging onto a stallion and hope it doesn't wipe you out and unalive you, if you can put it that way.
Well, Stephen, you mentioned about championship points and so forth. We also spoke earlier on, I used the term that you're racing in the championship. And if you're a little bit behind where you wanted to be at this stage, you're going to take some risks. And, mistakes might happen as we have a look. This is round 2 of this little battle. Cody Sherritt, he's right back on the rear end of Ryan Ottens. Now, Daniel Rowe is about 32 seconds behind this battle. He has completed all these pit stops. Ryan Ottens and Cody Sherritt still need to complete their last pit stop. So this little battle actually might work into the favor of Daniel Rowe, because he can close the gap down while Ryan Ottens and Cody Sherritt is battling it out on track. Remember, Snetterton is not the easiest of tracks to overtake on, but these two are not hanging back. Cody Sherritt having a look on the inside. They're going to go through here. He decides not to go for the move and rather stick to the back of Ryan Ottens through this long, sweeping, never-ending right-hander after this. It just feels like the track never ends turning right at this stage. And then you need to get the car slowed down for the last corner in some form of straight line or another. You see Cody Sherritt getting a little bit squirmy there, but he's hanging on that rear bumper, Stephen, and into the pits. This is a strategic move. Let's see where he feeds back out.
So this is where it's going to be an interesting one, because Ryan Ottens is a little bit further back. He's going to have to try and make up a bit of time. So he is in bomb hole at the moment, and it's turn 10.
That's
yes,
bomb. B-O-M-B hole.
Yes, bomb, like dropping
Bomb.
a bomb on. Definitely like what Hansi's been doing, dropping a bombshell on quite a few people, and that's definitely, if you go and land up with an argument in him, Hansi, I'm throwing you under the bus there, but you and I both know we've had we've dropped bombshells all over. But Cody Sherritt getting ahead of Daniel Rowe. So Daniel Rowe not gaining the advantage there, and it's 4.6 seconds behind. So very interesting stuff to see how that's going to close down. Giovanni Pozzero dealing with Johannes Kraling at the moment, the Lamborghini, doing everything they can. This is going to be a sprint down to the line. It's going to be a sprint down to the wire. I'm not sure how this is all going to work, and it's going to be close. It's going to be properly close to the checkered flag, and I mean, it's just mind-boggling, to be honest.
Interesting fact, Stephen.
Yes.
Contrary to popular belief, although Snetterton Circuit is built on a former RAF airfield, a bomb never fell on the site. Bomb Hole Corner was originally part of the SS until the circuit was revised and the corners were renamed in the 1970s.
So it's never had a bomb dropped on it?
No, it's just somebody had a bright idea to call it that.
You know
Ryan
why?
Alton's also.
You know why? That's because there was a dive bomb there. Ryan Otten's into the pits, as Hansi went and pointed out. So Ryan Otten's into the pits, and that's going to allow Cody Sherritt to close down a gap. Daniel Rowe trying to do everything he can to also make up a bit of time. Christian Venter in fourth place has got Christian Deploy. Now remember, Christian Deploy is second in the championship, so laying this far down the field is not where he wants to be. Christian Venter, though, is looking to try and maximize his championship points, as he is, let's see, he's a little bit further down.
Christian Venter getting all sorts out of shape there.
That's it. Ryan Otten's getting ahead of Daniel Rowe. Cody Sherritt retaking first place, and turning into a monstrous race all over. Nicholas Manuel, Daniel De Villiers, Giovanni Pozzero, they're going at one another. Christian Deploy, Christian Venter trying to go around the outside of Christian Venter into turn one. Who's going to be later on the brakes? The Porsche just being a fraction later, running him a little bit close onto the marbles, and trying to kill off that drive hard onto the brakes, diving up on the inside, side by side. And Christian Deploy getting a little bit of PTSD at that point, realizing that is where he lost his second place. Now has got Morgan McCall, and we haven't spoken about Morgan McCall because he's slowly crept up into the fight, and he has completed, it's a sprint race for him, so he's in for a great shot here, and it's actually very, very interesting. A steady, calm pace managed to move him up, quite far up. So this is where it's getting a bit heated for all the drivers. 11 minutes and 15 seconds to go. It does look like everyone except for Miller and Manuel that have done a pit stop. But I'm just taking a look. Miller, yes, still needs to do a pit stop, but Nicholas Manuel, I've got on my timing screen, he has done a pit stop, but maybe was it not enough? He didn't put in a liter of fuel. I don't know what would give that sort of alert. And Hansi, you know service pretty well. You know how the ins and outs work on this. What would give a reading like to still need one pit stop?
Well, there is a slight glitch in ACC that happens sometimes. Daniel has to, it is Daniel, eh? Yeah, he has to, De Villiers, eh? If I'm not mistaken.
It's
Miller.
Nicholas Manuel. Nicholas Manuel.
Yeah. So what happens is you just have to confirm with us if he did go pit twice, and then sometimes there is a glitch where it is actually going into the pit now, isn't it, Miller?
No, that was Darren Miller who's gone into the pits to complete his last pit stop. But Nicholas Manuel has on the timing board done two, but on our timing board being broadcasted, it shows that he's got one.
So he's just have to confirm it with us, and then we'll go back and see what happened there. But there is a slight glitch in ACC that sometimes happened that your pit does not count.
Okay, so there is ways around to fix it, which the drivers can go and point forward, which is always a good thing because we have to be very considerate of these things. Sometimes electronics work with you. Sometimes you want to teach it how to get a bit of airtime and learn how to fly. I know that I've more than once wanted to teach my computer how to fly. and it's been rather exciting. Just go back into my earlier stages. Morgan McCall pressurizing Christian Deploy at the moment, trying to figure out how to get past. Christian Venter locking down that 4th position. Daniel Rowe currently in 3rd position. Ryan Otten's in 2nd. Cody Sherritt out in 1st, looking to maximize his points and getting a bit of a run up on the line here. 8 minutes and 59 seconds left of the race. It is turning into a different race from what we expected at the start, but drivers needing to push that a little bit more. Daniel De Villiers, Giovanni Porzero, Henry Mayer, so the PWSR are now trying to keep ahead of the Genesis Esports cars, and Daniel the Hitman De Villiers now looking to lock and load at this point and forget bringing out the sniper rifle. Let's bring out the grenade launcher, the snub nose, the what else? The shotgun. Let's bring out the AA-12 at this point to try and hold.
At this stage, he's going to need a tail gunner for that one.
Start carrying a what was in the SADF? There was the G4, big artillery cannon that you can just
G5 and G6.
There we go, the G5 and G6. Yeah, he needs one of those to try and get rid of the mass fight behind him.
Take G6, just tow the trailer behind you, nobody will come close.
But these are the factors that, as it starts coming in, it rather makes it exciting to see how the strategies are coming into play, and where it's a lot of this has actually been positions gained in pits. It's been a strategy call, and this is what we saw at Alton Park the round before, and now we're seeing here at Snetterton, and I've got to say I love this. Alton Park did throw the spanner in the works for a lot of drivers where it actually rained, and the drivers had to work around that. Can we have more rain? Hansi, I'm going to ask you, can we have more rain, please? I'd love
Mr. Weatherman.
Yeah, Mr. Weatherman.
Well, we have to give Beatrice a present, so maybe we should give him some rain on his favorite track.
That could be
What I was also thinking about the pit strat there is he could have not maybe fueled his 1 liter, and that's why it did not count. That's the other thing that could have happened maybe on that pit stop there.
No, it's quite possible.
So could it been a case that he fitted tires but not added fuel? Then it would.
Yes, because the mandatory is you have to fuel on both of your pit stops. So even if it's a 1 liter on your second one, so maybe he just forgot to add that 1 liter.
So, yeah, he was stopped in the box for 32 seconds, which does give enough time for a tyre change.
For a tyre, yep.
Okay, right. The plot thickens for Nicholas Manuel, but at the moment, Cody Sherritt out in 1st place, trying to run away at the moment, getting away from Ryan Otten, 6.9 seconds. Daniel Rowe, 2.6 seconds behind him in 3rd place. Christian Venter, Christian Deploy, Morgan McCall, all in a fight with one another. Bego Krobler slowly closing down on them. Janus Kraling, he is 7.7 seconds behind. He's dealing with Nicholas Manuel. Daniel De Villiers has got Giovanni Porzero right behind him. Henry Mayer losing a bit of time, trying to close down that gap as well. 13th place, Mahaif Mutsa. I mean, these are turning into a bit of a rush down, and I can't actually wait to see how it all works out. And I can't wait to see the discussions after the championship, because this is going to be a little bit of an interesting discussion for a lot of the drivers. Robert McCall actually saying last week,
I'm just reading it now.
If you stop sideways offline the pit, sometimes it picks you up and drops you and doesn't count as a stop. So it actually moves the car. So if you're out of the pit box, it moves the car.
Well, I think what they said, there was another discussion that I read as well. The car actually falls off the jack, so to speak, and then it doesn't count, if I understand that correctly, referring back to a previous chat that the guys also had. Might be mistaken, but it sounds similar to what Robert is saying on the YouTube chat.
Which is a very interesting situation, because it does lean on to the fact that if you're too far left, I know in NASCAR, in IndyCar, in WEC, all that, if you're too far to the left or too far to the right, that you're out of the pit box, the pit crew cannot actually work on the car because it's deemed that you're out of the safety line. You're out of your pit box, so you have to move yourself back into it. And for a game to replicate a similar thing like that, where the guys have to sort of get their cars into the pit box, it does make things rather interesting. And it gives you the sensation that they have worked on the car. Meanwhile, all that they've done is they've just moved you back and dropped you back down, and then having to get the air jack back underneath you, which I've got to say does flip things on its head. And next time I miss the pit box, I can go and talk to my team for not showing me exactly where that square is.
So Oculus Racing says it was actually Manuel's first pit stop that didn't register. Now that might have been a stop where he just added a little bit of fuel, a splash and dash, and then it would, what Robert McCall says, would make entirely sense. He thought he put fuel in, but he didn't actually put any fuel in. The car was dropped off the jacks.
Well, that's it. Just moved. It was moved into the safety line.
Yes, and he got going before they actually started doing the pit stop.
Well,
because you thought you did your pit stop.
The more you know. That is, by far, I have to say, big thank you and a big shout out to the guys giving us a little bit of information, because it does make things rather interesting. Nicholas Manuel diving back into the pits. So that's going to allow Daniel de Villiers and Giovanni to go by. And let's actually take a look. He's keeping it far right, locks it in, and he is getting worked on there. So he is stationary. He's getting that pit stop done. And
which tells me he needed to pit for more fuel. There was no fuel put in the car on the first stop. He's now running short of fuel, maybe.
When that needle's going the wrong way and you start leaning your head to the right in hopes.
Yeah, no, it just looks okay, but when the Christmas tree starts flashing on the dashboard, then it starts becoming a problem.
No,
just scared now.
No, the problem is when the Christmas tree stops flashing.
When everything goes dead.
When suddenly the pretty little lights on your dash disappear. Then you know you're in for a world of hurt, and life's about to get very exciting very fast.
Run it back to the pits on the starter motor. All these cars are hybrids. They've got starter motors. They can run on electrics.
Or no, they're petrol motors. They're proper engines. Let's not go.
I'm talking about the starter motor, Stephen. It's electric, powered by a battery.
Oh, you crank it until it breaks.
Just hold the button in.
Well, at the moment, 1 minute and 30 seconds to go. Cody Sherritt, though, a great recovery drive, 43 laps into the race, managed to put himself into first place. Now he just has to keep it all together. Ryan Otten's in second place, Daniel Rowe in third. He's actually getting chased down. He's chasing down his teammate, Christian Fenter, dealing with Morgan McCall. Christian Deploy trying to make up a bit of time. He's got Bago Frubler all onto the back of him. Jonas Hreiling is a bit of no man's land at the moment. Daniel the Hitman de Villiers dealing with Henry Mayer. There's a couple of cars out there that are still watching their mirrors like a hawk, while majority of the field, a little bit further down, I think Nicholas Manuel, Cameron de Bastos are keeping an eye on each other. Johan van der Merwe and Essie Estaes, they're keeping a close eye on one another, but nothing too hectic, like, for example, the battles that we've seen here within the top 10 itself. Henry Mayer trying off everything he can. Daniel de Villiers locking down that inside line, ensuring that there is no way that it's going to happen. I mean, this is fantastic to see in the closing stages of the race, and it does put the pressure down onto the drivers to really capitalize, to maximize their points. But I've got to ask you guys, when do you say, okay, I'm going to stop going for that fight, I'm going to be content with my position and focus on the team here, or Daniel de Villiers nearly getting sandwiched in the middle, and Cody Sherritt coming across the line, taking the checkered flag. He actually slowed up, and that's first place to Cody Sherritt, so congratulations. Ryan Otten's taking second place, Daniel Rowe taking third, Christian Fenter in a battle with Morgan McCall constantly pressurizing him. This is for 4th and 5th. Morgan trying to go around the outside, looks to do a bit of a cutback, not able to make it stick. Christian Fenter getting the drive, will be locking down 4th position. 5th going to Morgan McCall behind Christian Deploy, getting ahead of Bago Krobler in 7th place. Johannes Grayling getting 8th place. 9th, Daniel de Villiers, who is trying to keep away from Henry Mayer, trying to close down the gap. Giovanni Porzero also looking to close down the gap to his teammate, but not able to do so as they hit the straight. Mahath Musa, great run. He's in 12th. 13th going to Justin Lotus at the moment. Nicholas Manuel, after having that pit stop going and landing up, compromising him, and the frustration must be in the car hugely, and I take my hat off to him to keep going, because many people would have just given up at that point. So well done to Nicholas Manuel, finishing up in 14th. Cameron de Bastos in 15th. 16th going to Jude Neville for the LT Chick car. Alan Patterson finishing out in 17th. Darren Miller going and finishing out in 18th. He's got quite a bit of damage to that Lamborghini. That bull looking a little bit second-hand. Jan van der Merwe finishing 19th. 20th, SES to Ace. Graham Moton, Ramona Yonka, Tini Nkube, Loic Randable. We did lose a couple of cars in the race, but my heavens, what a race it was right until the line. Let's actually head to the commentary box and get a little bit of an idea to this.
To answer your question that you were busy asking, in most of the situation these guys found themselves, the answer would be at the checkered flag. Can you still remember the question?
No, well, that's it. When do you stop fighting? When you go to the checkered flag. And,
yeah,
you know, I've got to say, this was a very, very exciting race because it came down to pit stop strategies. And even if you had a rough race, you were able to make up so much time under strategies that it does make things rather interesting. And I've got to take my hat off to a few drivers that managed to make it stick. So that is just impressive stuff. So let's actually take a look at a couple of the highlights while we're getting the guys in. And we're going to do a very, very quick one for everyone out there. So to you guys in the chats, out there on the grandstands, we're going to bring in Daniel de Villiers. Daniel, congratulations in your race. It was a difficult one. You really had a great one. Fight right up until the end. How are you feeling?
Yo, I'm a bit hot at the moment. It was a bit difficult that last 20 minutes keeping Porzio and Henry Meyer behind me. Phew.
Oh, absolutely fantastic stuff. But the Hitman locked, loaded, and put a bullet in the chamber and managed to get it right. So congratulations to that. And from start to finish, it was just all on strategies to move forward. But now that I've seconded you, we've got to go and give a big shout out. And I know Hansi's just muted his microphone. Hansi, unlock your microphone. We're going to have a big shout out to the head of RaceFace, Bertus Hugo, who it's his birthday today. He is 1 year closer to retirement and a full-time sim racer. So I'm going to ask for everyone out there in the chats to just wish Bertus Hugo a very, very happy birthday from the Grid Championship.
For a moment, I thought you said you want to ask us to sing. So I wanted to say, I feel a shot of laryngitis coming on.
That's why Hansi muted his mic, just in case.
But I'm sure we said the first guy in the comms box is going to sing, isn't it?
Yes.
Okay, I'll count it out.
Isn't that you, Hansi?
No. I've been here all the time.
Hansi's been here. So, Daniel, you unfortunately have been seconded. So, to everyone, feel free to go and sing happy birthday.
I'm not going to sing. But yeah, happy birthday, Bertus Hugo. Thank you for everything you've done for us. And do not get too old, eh?
He's 1 year closer to becoming a full-time sim racer. But Daniel, I mean, it was a hard race out there. It was a difficult one. Snetterton now behind. I know a lot of drivers are going to be rather happy with that. They're going to be putting it behind. Your thoughts on the circuit and the racing, especially with how we've now reaching the end of the championship, this 8-round championship or the grid championship, that 10,000 Rand prize pool sitting on for a lot of drivers. You've learned a lot. You've come from a lot. Your thoughts going into the closing stages of this championship, and your thoughts of Snetterton.
Yeah, Snetterton. I was very scared of this track actually until the sprint race. Then I actually got used to it. But like for today, my race pace was nowhere. I have no idea where my race pace went. Yesterday it was much better compared to today. I'm not sure if the track's changed a bit with some rain or something that splashed away all the grip. But yeah, looking forward for the rest of the 2 races. I think it's Zandvoort next and then Valencia. So yeah,
the final circuit. Well,
yes.
Daniel,
So I'm looking to survive to the end. Actually, that's my goal at the moment.
Absolutely fantastic, Daniel. The mic is yours. Safe for work, same as usual. If there's any challenges or if you would like to thank anybody, anything like that, it's open while we see a shot of Morgan McCall outbreaking you into turn 2 on screen.
Yeah.
But just give us your closing thoughts on your side.
No, first of all, I want to say thank you to Alan Patterson, PWSR, for still keeping faith in me in this race and this league, and trusting me with their car, and yeah, I just want to thank to Bertus for an excellent season so far, and to the stewards doing all the hard work, and also to you, Stephen and Janeman and Hansi as well, for all you guys' hard work. Thank you very much.
We just drink all your soda and sit on the sofa and.
Oh, sorry, and Tim the cameraman.
Cannot forget Tim.
Him,
So,
all right, Janeman, anything from your side that you would like to ask Daniel de Villiers?
Daniel, just a quick one. We were actually chatting it while we were watching your battle on stream. What goes through your head when you're getting chased down by 2 teammates? Essentially the car behind, or the 2 cars behind you, might be working together. So you're getting basically double teamed. It's not just one car you're battling anymore.
Yeah, I noticed that like halfway through the whole battle, I think like with 10 minutes left, I'm like, oh my goodness, they're actually teammates, because I'm sure Henry was a bit faster, but all I'm saying to myself, don't crash, don't crash, don't crash, don't crash.
Hold all the mirrors in and that's behind you.
If I'm going down, I'm taking you guys with me, sort of.
Something like that. But can we beep that out a bit,
Absolutely. Some great stuff there. Thank you very much, Daniel. Really appreciate you coming into the commentary box and just giving us some feedback on the race. Absolutely awesome to have a chat to you.
Cool. Thank you guys. Appreciate
Well
it.
done.
Thanks. All the best.
All right. Well, that was Daniel de Villiers. But let's go and take a look at what's coming up. So we have got the RaceFace Dirt Championship round number 6 as we head to Monaco and see where the guys really duke it out. Sunday 11th, go and join up with Dirt Rally 2.0 at RaceFace.Pro if you want to go and sling some mud. Next week, we do have the RaceFace GT3 Sprint Series round number 7 as we head over to Zandvoort on the 14th of June, next week, Wednesday. Go and join in with all the exciting action coming up as it all comes to a close, getting closer and closer to a close. And before we head to the brand new track of Valencia, then on Thursday, we got the Mettlestate Grid Championship brought to you by Mettlestate and RaceFace, round number 7 at Zandvoort. That 10,000 Rand prize pool going on the line for everyone, so make sure you're there for the 15th of June. It is not to be missed as we get closer and closer to the end to see the final checkered flag of the season. Then we have also got the RaceFace iRacing TCR Championship round number 3 on the 20th of June on a Tuesday. So 20th June, mark it down for the Okayama International Raceway as our TCRs look to do battle out there on the circuit. Now, I know Tim the cameraman has just joined me here, but Tim, listen, I need to show off my grand singing skills. Watch this, South African Got Talent. I've got it here. Happy birthday to... That wasn't very nice, Tim. That was not very nice. Well, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, it's truly been an honor. You couldn't hear my amazing singing voice. You know, some people just can't handle talent. But, Janneman,
The
anything
producer
from your...
said no.
That's it. Producer said no. And Tim, the
No.
cameraman, changed the cameras completely. Janneman, from your side, anything in closing, what would you like to see?
2 rounds to go, Stephen. As you mentioned, we've got Zandvoort next week, then the new track Valencia after that. Things are heating up in the championship. Cody Sherritt, I think, has extended his lead. We'll have to see what happens in the coming week before Zandvoort. Are we going to see some rain around Zandvoort? I've raced in the rain around Zandvoort. It makes that track pretty interesting. I think that will be a nice little addition, don't you think?
I think it will be a very, very interesting one, but we're going to have to find out because with dynamic weather, anything can happen. Hansi, any thoughts from yours in closing for the race and heading into the final races of the championship?
Look, I'm not going to apply rain to Zandvoort. I think I'll get fired from Bertus. But other than that, I think
That's
the
no.
races should just enjoy the last. And I know the last 2-3 races always gets tight and it gets heated. The guys are pushing for that last champion points, and I think everybody should just relax and enjoy the last couple of races.
I think it's going to be a very interesting one. So, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, thank you so much for joining us this evening. From myself, Stephen Koenig, Janneman Price, and Hansi Myberg, we would like to thank you guys. Make sure if you're out on YouTube, you're busy looking around, go to RaceFace.Pro, subscribe, and hit the bell notification icon for all the racing action coming up on RaceFace.Pro out on YouTube. And if you want to see all the amazing competitions happening out, Mettlestate has got a YouTube channel. Go and look up Mettlestate out on YouTube, and also go to twitch.tv/Mettlestate to go and see all the amazing competitions, whether you like first-person shooters, brawlers, whether you like going and seeing some really tactical bit of fun, and also a bit of mobile gaming as well. Head over to Mettlestate. Thank you very much for joining us. Boys and girls, we really, really appreciate it. And to everyone, a good morning, a good afternoon, a good evening, and good night, everybody.
Good night, everyone.
Good night, everybody.
Now you can change the scenes, Tim. You can't handle talent, can you?